Okay, so we are live. So hello everyone.
Hello.
We are live. We are live for last one and a half minutes, but
Minutes.
we
Okay.
are we are about to start now.
Okay.
So welcome to Art House Asia Film Festival. This is our first fifth edition, and this is our first short film Q&A. And I am Festival Director Shopot Dash, and it's a pleasure to welcome you all in this Q&A. Uh, First of all, Apurva, uh, it was a fantastic film. It is a fantastic film, like, and um, I don't know how many times, not how many times, but like whenever I have watched it, I enjoyed it a lot, always, and it was a genuine feeling. And congratulations to the team, Faraz and Jennifer, too, that for making this wonderful short film and fantastic short film. Uh, so like my first question was different, but I thought that I should ask you something that uh, why, uh, why you have chosen this subject? Uh, is it because I feel it's personal, or there is some different reason?
Well, it's definitely a very personal story. A lot of the things that you see in the story are my own personal experiences or experiences I've heard from my mom. Uh, yeah, I mean, I wasn't planning on making Kanya, to be honest. It just happened. I was looking for a topic to work on, and I'd written a short story that was published in an anthology series. And Faraz and I were looking for a story to collaborate on. And Faraz had read the short story, and he said, "Hey, this has potential to be made into a film." And the short story was a bit different from what Kanya is, but I think he was the one who persuaded me into looking at it from a visual perspective and like trying to adapt the short story into a short film. And it was a very interesting process because we did not have a story. We had the images first, uh, and then we worked our way back to the story because we already knew what the story is going to be because it was in the form of a short story.
Okay. So I got it, and mm, so like tell me that how it started. It was, I think it's a institute project. It was a diploma film, if I am not. Mm,
Yes, so it was a graduation film, and Faraz and I had decided to collaborate together because we were graduating at the same time. So we wanted to, work on something that would be interesting for both of us and something that was kind like from India, because we were based in Czech Republic. We wanted to try to do something that was more closer to our culture and where we come from, but combining that with the aesthetics that we've learned here in a European film school. So yeah, so we came up with a couple of images based on the short story, and then we worked our way back to creating a story about menstruation. Um and it comes from my own personal experience, learning, like so as a teenager I was learning to swim, and I remember having my first period, and my mom wanted me to take a break from it, and I didn't understand what it was, uh, and I wanted to capture that confusion of a teenager who doesn't understand what menstruation is, and it's still sort of a taboo topic. We don't talk about it that much, and because I have this vivid imagery of like swimming underwater and sort of getting having a menstruation when I was learning to swim, I thought it would be very interesting to like use water as a visual element, and that's how we decided to make the short film. And then once we had the shots, we went to Jennifer and we were explaining to her on how to make this happen, and it's very tricky, right? Like to shoot underwater, so yeah, so that's how it started, and I guess for us would be a better person to talk about how we went about shooting it underwater. Sorry, your mic is off.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, yeah, definitely. And before I ask the question to Parag, I must compliment his hairstyle. It's fantastic.
He gets the compliment a
And
lot.
yeah, so for us, like, please take us through the journey of. I think you're muted, Parag. Sorry, Faraz, you are muted, Faraz.
Yeah, yeah. Now I think, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you. I'm just here for the hairstyle, though. I mean, I didn't do much otherwise. So,
Absolutely not. So please take us through the journey of uh, the cinematography and how you approached why, because visually it's so enriching. I feel that you have created two different universe uh, uh, through the. It's a kind of a. I felt it's a mindscape of that girl into different universe, and it was seamlessly shot. So how did you did it?
well, it's been a while, but the idea was always the same, to make it uh to try to make it as immersive as we can, and try to make it as internal to our character as possible. And even though it is a story of a child, but it is still spoken in quite a surreal way, just how sometimes children's minds work, and how the visuals might, I mean, it's quite personal. So this is what, if maybe back in the days, if I was a child and if I would be seeing things, it would be quite different from reality. uh, Spaces might look bigger than they are, colors might look more vibrant than they are, and little things like breaking of an egg to little actions which are quite mundane in everyday lives might hold much more relevance to a child, uh, to the curious mind of a child. So yeah, it started from that idea. It started from that, notion. But then we slowly evolved, uh, based on based on the story, based on the circumstances that we had, based on the logistical problems that we had. It We adapted quite a bit, without losing the core idea, and tried to make it as internal as we can. So even if you notice, most, like, the main character, every shot revolves around mostly the main character. There is hardly a shot besides these macro inserts which involve some other character. So other characters are mostly secondary, or just like an aided element to this central character. So even the way she's framed, even the actions that she does is framed, is all mostly about her internal mindscape, like you said. Yeah, that's more or less, vaguely what it was, language wise. And then, of course, there was Jennifer and Apoorva, who brought in, like Jennifer especially, who brought in these colors and these ideas because we were also shooting in different countries because we could not finish the entire schedule in India as planned, and we had to recreate the spaces back in Prague without expecting that. So there were few locations which were just there when we shot them with, and we never realized that we'll have to recreate the same set all over again in Prague. And that's when Jennifer's magic comes into play. And yeah, she did that too. So yeah, that's more or less. I mean, if there is something specific, I can go in detail about it. But this is the journey of the Finlands.
Okay, okay. Before coming back to you, I think I should go to Jennifer. But before Jennifer, Apurva, please tell us this ritual which was in the film. Like there will be audience from maybe outside India who will not be knowing the ritual maybe which was uh, shown in the film, the ceremony. So, what is the background of this ritual, and what do you
Yeah.
think that?
So this is a very peculiar ceremony that happens, I think, in a lot of South Indian communities. It's kind of grander in specific communities, but in our community, it works in a way where, like, you sit down and then you have people coming in and like blessing you, and it's like the family sort of telling the world that our daughter has attained this age, like she's now transitioning into a woman. uh, Based on the research that we did earlier, I think it was supposed to be sort of like a way in which like potential grooms could meet the bride who's ready to get married. And I think that's how my great grandmother got married, if I'm not wrong. Like my great grandfather met her at a puberty ceremony. Um, and they ended up getting married. So and I don't think I have a great memory with that puberty ceremony, although I did it because I respected the tradition. I think it was crossing a boundary for me personally. I did not like the idea of other people knowing what my body was going through. And it's a very common ceremony in South India, especially for women who or young girls who attain puberty. And we kind of adapted it. What you see in the film is not entirely the exact ceremony, but we kind of adapted it for the story. But yeah, the idea and the overall feel and like how the ceremony happens is more or less the same.
Uh, Definitely, and it was shot and edited in Jennifer. Can you hear me? Hello, Jennifer.
Yes. Hello.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone.
Yes. Yeah. So, actually, you are still for me. So, what I want to know that it's an Indian story and with Indian value, whether the core of the story is definitely universal and any woman across the world can relate to it. So, when you were so when you were you joined the project and started working on it, what was your first few days response? Were you were what I will say, like you know about this culture, or it was very new to you? You started knowing the background of this, and then went on to work on this project.
Yeah. Well, first of all, yes, I had to do quite a bit of research because as you can imagine, I have not been raised, or even I never even went to India before. So this was a first experience for me. And yeah, I had to do a lot of the research online. Actually, watch a couple of films that were recommended by Apoorva and Faraz. That definitely helped. And I think one of my first biggest moments where I really, really got in touch with the culture was actually when I spoke to Apoorva's mother. So if ever I had questions, of course, I knew I could to Apoorva or even Faraz. But I think the most enjoyable conversations I had were with Apoorva's mom, which was really nice because she taught me a lot, and she taught me a lot about her religion, and yeah, and I think the next area were my visual stimulations. I always go onto Pinterest or our good friend Uncle Google to help us to help me with visual images. So that was my first approach.
And like how how you perceive uh, this religious thing. It's like multicultural, like unity in diversity in India. How you perceive this, and like was it when you are coloring it? If I am not wrong, uh, then what was your approach towards selecting these particular colors? Like I'm very particularly about that scene when there is a fruit is broken, and that's a very interesting thing. Definitely, my question to Apurva will be that why you are showing this fruit. Sometimes I feel it's cliche, or and also Jennifer that I feel that the color is uh, the color is apt, but how you select those color, like maybe the underwater colors and all those things.
Apoorva, do you want to go first, or should I answer?
Yeah, so just to quickly address the question about fruit and the cliche around it, I think that was the whole idea. Like when Faraz and I started, we always you know, decided that we will start with a cliche but work around it because conceptually, visually, story wise, everything that has to be ever told has already been told by somebody else, you know what I mean, like as a story or visually. So we want the only way it's going to differ is how we approach it. So and for me, pomegranate is in many cultures, like I think it's like it signifies fertility. So we wanted to somehow find a way to associate that with menstruation because that's how it's connected, and the ceremony is also about that. uh, so that's how we went about using these elements like a fruit breaking or an egg cracking in the story. In terms of the color, I'm going to let Jenny speak in a minute, but what we did was Faraz and I had already decided on a color palette. We knew that shooting in India is very tricky because you have a lot of colors, and you just place the camera on the road, you're going to get a million colors, so we knew that that's going to be very tricky, so we wanted to make sure that we have control over the colors. So we had already decided that we'll go for a triadic color palette. So for example, you would see that in every single shot in the film you have the character wearing a color, the background is in a different color, and then the light is another color. So it's usually uh, like working around that concept when it comes to the color palette, I guess. And then now I guess Jenny will be a better person to answer how she approached it once we gave her this.
Yeah, I'll continue from what Apoorva was saying. We actually we planned the shoot to the T. I mean, really every single shot. We every single shot we chose what colors we were going to have, and we made a spreadsheet with each and every single shot of what colors we were going to use, who was going to be in let's say a blue sari, the other person would be in this color, and yeah, we really planned it. And for me, it was, I would actually say that it was a it was a blessing, but it was also a curse because I had to choose from so many different tones of colors, and we had to, yeah, we had to. Oh, I mean, we agreed every single time when we when we decide on what scene, what color, what person would have what color. But then within that color, there was definitely so many tones, especially in India, so many choices to choose from. But I think it was a really good call that we had that evening where we just sat down and just went through every single scene and decided exactly what color the each character, well, what color was going to be in that specific scene. Um, so yeah, and then it just came down to sourcing it, and also I don't think we were lucky enough to have any camera tests, but we definitely tested, I think in Prague, because of the recreation of certain sets. So I had to make sure that, let's say, the paint that I bought was exactly the right paint, the right kind of color of the paint that was in the temple in India, for example. That was a bit of a challenge. But no, I think just planning and choosing, and like Apoorva said, it was a triad scheme that we went for.
Okay, so glad. And my next question is about the sound of the film, and I felt it's very, very interesting, and how, like, especially the last scene, I will say that when Kanya jumped into uh, like the talao, or the uh, the pond, and it was when she went inside and came up. That scene was definitely fantastic, and I can't forget this face, how she was looking at it, and I think it's Tarunya Satish, if I'm not wrong, that actor, and she's fantastic in the film. So, how, when you thought about approaching the sound, how you thought that you will, was it prepared that you will go into this thing in pre-production or after the shot, because the uh, or it was a sing sound, like, I should ask it first, maybe, was it a sing sound? Apurva, I can't hear you because you're mute.
Yeah, sorry. No, I was going to say it would have been impossible to shoot sync sound, especially because it's underwater. uh, but we did think about sync sound for a minute. Um, but unfortunately, we had to do everything in post. But I think when we were closer to shooting the film, we already knew that sound was going to be something we have to work in post. Um, and our sound designer, Wojta, who's a Czech sound designer based in Prague, had a very interesting approach to the sound. I think he meticulously went and spent an entire night, and I think Jennifer was also there when they were creating these sounds. So they went to a swimming pool and actually recorded the sounds that they, like, underwater. Uh, and if you see, most of the shots that we have shot underwater are high frame rate. So we needed sound that matches with that as well. So, sound in normal frame rate might not be something that could work for this. So I think they kind of played around with the frame rate and like speeding it up and slowing it down. And as we were like working on it, you know, I would I would just like direct Voita in a direction where like I felt like he was able to like understand what I was going for. Like what Faraz said, we wanted to amplify everything. So visually, we were able to create that very easily because Faraz did a fantastic job. But like in terms of sound, we were still like finding a way to like make that happen. And I think it was evolving as we were working on the sound. And we also had a composer. Susha, who was taking a lot of our references and like trying to create something that goes with this water theme, like mostly with voices and stuff, which works much better when you add, like, add the water sounds, because they're already very noisy. So we wanted something that was not overpowering the water sounds. So, and then, like, we tried to, it was basically trial and error. I wouldn't say we had like a full-fledged plan for the sound. It was more like finding sounds and just checking if it works. If it doesn't work, we move on to other stuff, and then suddenly, we slow down the speed of one recording, and it's like, wow, this sounds really cool for this particular shot. So that's how we kind of, it was sort of like a puzzle, I must say. So quite an interesting process.
Definitely. And with this, I am coming to my last question, and the question is to all of you that the subject of the film is very universal, and how you think that um, even though in India the girl child deaths and like this um, uh, people are still don't want girl child, and there are still this kind of customs are or rituals are around throughout throughout this subcontinent. So what do you think that uh, was is film a medium, and is this through this medium with your statements can there be a change, uh, or you think no? So for us, first time, for us, you're mute.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I missed your last sentence. Is there a change or?
So no, no, I asked that, like, do you think that with this film, like, with the film as a medium, not only this film, that you think that this kind of uh, social practice can be challenged or influenced for the better?
Um, I don't know if it can go to that extreme of where it can be challenged, but yes, there can definitely be an afterthought. There can definitely be an afterthought about how you see, like, let's say if we talk about this film in particular, and if although although this, like I said again, this is quite if we try to make it more global than while trying to talk about a local subject. So the audience reactions, I mean, how it would change and differ might be quite different. For some, it would just be awareness of like, hey, this also happened somewhere in the world. And for many people out here, I don't know if it would change anything, but just like how they would treat, the taboo of menstruation and how it should not be a taboo. Just maybe just reflecting on that idea once, and how parents would see their own daughters and how society would see them. I don't know if that would bring a massive all over change, but yeah, just like an afterthought, I think it can maybe instigate that.
Okay, Jennifer.
Yeah, kind of course, agreeing with Faraz and kind of continuing what he was saying. One of the biggest, I think, one of the biggest challenges and most repeated phrases and conversations that we were having between us is how to make this idea translated into cultures across the world, because we wanted desperately, and I believe that we've been very fortunate enough to have this film seen in so many different countries across the globe. And so that was our most, well, key key ideas, so that people would watch this film and people would talk about this subject more, that it would become less of a taboo, that women would, I would say, accept that this is a very, sometimes very painful but very beautiful thing that happens to you, and that there is no shame in it at all, and also appreciating that there is some kind of power in this as well. And this goes to my idea about, well, about films in general, but also about arts in general, is that you know, they're here to create a conversation, a dialogue. No matter what kind of subject you are talking about, it's there to start a dialogue. And I don't think that we're here or it will create any kind of change, but it will definitely continue the dialogue that has been going on for tens of thousands of years about women's menstruation. So I'm I'm very fortunate to be a part of this team and this film, and so happy that you guys have seen it, and that hopefully some people go home tonight and yeah, talk about this kind of stuff.
Apurva?
Yeah, I think they've beautifully. My teammates have already explained what I think very beautifully. But I just have to add one thing, which is what like it's something related to like the pre-production that I was doing. Like I remember going to one of my teachers and giving her the script and help asking her for help to translate it in Tamil. And she read it and she said, "Oh my God, this is exactly what I was going to do." Uh, to my daughter, and it makes me wonder if this is the right way to go. But at the same time, I come from this generation that believes that the tradition is good for my daughter, so I don't know how to go about it. And I think that's the best I can do, right? Like if somebody is able to look at it and say, "Oh, I'm not sure if I'm doing the right thing. Maybe I should look at it from a different perspective." And honestly, that's all we can do as filmmakers. Like, I don't think we can ever change anybody's opinion, but we can definitely spark conversations about it and make people question if this is the right way to go about it. There's nothing wrong with the ceremony. The movie was not made to mock at the ceremony or make it look like the ceremony shouldn't exist. It can adapt to different forms that is more comfortable for you know girls who are growing up and who are going through these things. So and that's my intention, not to not have the ceremony at all. um so hopefully it will happen, like we'll see.
Thank you all of you for joining us live here, and thank you the Facebook audience also to join us in this conversation and also in the theater. We could not prolong the conversation. We have to conclude it because our next film is scheduled. And
Okay,
thank you once again, and congratulations for this fantastic film.
thank you very much.
Happy festival and watch as many films as you can.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
All right,
Have a good one.
All right. Bye bye.
bye.